It's not every day that you see a professional sports league publicly implode. But that's exactly what's happening in the WNBA, and the name at the center of it all is Cathy Engelbert. The once celebrated commissioner, brought in to modernize the league and bring stability, is now being described by insiders as the very person setting it on fire. And the wildest part? It's not just the fans or a few frustrated players calling for her head. It's the owners themselves. The people who sign her checks, who trusted her with the league's future, are now holding private meetings to discuss one question. Should Cathy Engelbert be fired? Sources inside the WNBA say the whispers that began months ago have become open discussions. Executives are reportedly done being patient, describing the league's current state as unmanageable and chaotic. Players boo her when she appears at games. Fans groan when her name is mentioned. And ownership groups, once her strongest allies, are now leading the revolt. ESPN insiders revealed that several team owners have already expressed their loss of confidence in her leadership, with one executive saying bluntly, "If I had a vote, I'd ask for her replacement tomorrow." This isn't just bad PR, it's a full-blown mutiny. What began as discontent over officiating and player treatment has evolved into something far deeper: a total loss of faith in leadership. Engelbert, who was supposed to unify the WNBA, now finds herself alienated from every major faction. The players, the fans, and the boardrooms. Even the NBA, which oversees the WNBA, is reportedly worried about optics. Yet, the public sentiment is clear. The commissioner has lost the locker room. For the first time in WNBA history, the players, owners, and fans are all on the same page, but not in unity. They're united against their commissioner. The question now isn't if Engelbert is on her way out. It's how much more damage she'll cause before the league finally shows her the door. It was supposed to be the WNBA's golden moment. A new era of stardom, ratings, and cultural relevance. Caitlin Clark, the most electrifying college player in a generation, had entered the league and instantly turned it into a headline machine. Sold-out arenas, record-breaking TV numbers, unprecedented merchandise sales. Everything the WNBA had been chasing for years was suddenly within reach. But instead of capitalizing on that momentum, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert did something unthinkable. She downplayed it. And in doing so, she didn't just fumble an opportunity. She created a crisis that may end her career. Behind closed doors, players and executives recount a series of stunning missteps. When asked about the increasingly physical, some say targeted play against Caitlin Clark, Engelbert reportedly dismissed it as media exaggeration and overblown. She even suggested Clark should be grateful for the platform the WNBA gives her. A line that insiders say sent shockwaves through the league. Players saw it as condescending. Fans saw it as tone-deaf. And owners saw it as a PR disaster of epic proportions. That was the breaking point. The moment Engelbert's leadership turned from unpopular to untenable. What should have been the biggest growth moment in women's sports became a public relations inferno. Instead of defending her young superstar and addressing player safety concerns, Engelbert brushed them aside, alienating both her players and her audience in one fell swoop. As one insider put it, once you start going to war with your own stars, it's a death spiral. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player. She was the face of the league's future. Her arrival brought millions of new fans who finally believed the WNBA could rival the mainstream appeal of men's basketball. But those fans didn't find the celebration they expected. Instead, they found a commissioner seemingly out of touch with the moment, more focused on controlling narratives than fostering growth. That perception, of a tone-deaf leader detached from reality, hardened into a reputation that Engelbert can't shake. From the locker room to the stands, the resentment runs deep. Caitlin Clark became a symbol, not just of the league's potential, but of everything wrong with its leadership. Engelbert's dismissal of her importance wasn't just bad judgment. It was career suicide, because in 2025, when your league's biggest star feels unsupported and your fans feel unheard, you're not leading. You're losing. If there's one word that keeps surfacing when people describe Cathy Engelbert's leadership, it's this: condescending. Over and over again, insiders paint the same picture. A commissioner who doesn't listen, doesn't relate, and doesn't seem to care. From the players' union to the ownership meetings, Engelbert's tone has become a running joke, but it's no laughing matter. Multiple executives have said she talks down to everyone, even to team owners. Others describe her as dismissive, cold, and impossible to work with. The result? A culture of tension, resentment, and silence. The kind that kills progress from the inside out. One owner told ESPN flatly, "She's lost the locker room and the boardroom. Once that happens, it's over." But Engelbert doesn't seem to see it that way. When she walks into press conferences, she projects calm, confident leadership, while behind closed doors, the league is on the verge of civil war. That disconnect between her public persona and her private leadership style has made her one of the most unpopular commissioners in American sports. Players accuse her of ignoring their concerns. Coaches say she dodges accountability. And owners? They've had enough. What's most damning is how predictable it all became. When controversy struck, whether over officiating, travel conditions, or player treatment, Engelbert's instinct was always the same: deflect, minimize, and spin. Instead of listening to her players' frustrations, she framed their criticism as emotional reactions. Instead of collaborating with owners, she lectured them about patience. It's leadership in the most corporate sense. Obsessed with optics, allergic to humility. One executive said it best: "She runs the league like a PowerPoint presentation. Everything's numbers, nothing's people." That line captures the heart of the problem. The WNBA isn't just a business. It's a movement, powered by athletes who represent empowerment and visibility. But Engelbert treats it like a quarterly earnings report, and that has turned even her allies against her. The irony is striking. Engelbert was brought in to bring professionalism and corporate strategy to the WNBA. She succeeded, but at the cost of its soul. Her sterile, top-down leadership might impress Wall Street investors, but it alienates the very people who make the league matter: the players, the fans, the culture. Now, with ownership trust collapsing and player loyalty fading, Engelbert's biggest flaw isn't incompetence, it's arrogance. She believes she can outlast the storm, but what she doesn't realize is that she's the storm. When Cathy Engelbert took over as commissioner, she promised to bring corporate innovation to women's basketball, and for a while it sounded good on paper. She boasted of major financial wins, headline-grabbing investors, and a $75 million capital raise in 2022 that she said would revolutionize the WNBA's future. But behind the polished press releases, insiders now say that very deal has become one of the biggest blunders in league history. Here's what actually happened. In exchange for that $75 million, Engelbert sold off 16% of the WNBA's ownership to outside investors, a move that effectively handed partial control of the league's direction to private firms. It was supposed to accelerate growth. Instead, it created chaos. Owners now say it turned the WNBA into a bureaucratic maze, where corporate partners have more say than the actual team owners. One frustrated executive described it bluntly: "That capital raise handcuffed us more than it helped us. The investors came with strings attached, and those strings tangled everything. Decision-making slowed to a crawl, priorities shifted toward profit optics over player well-being, and suddenly the league's soul felt outsourced. The supposed growth strategy became what one insider called a boardroom nightmare. Instead of empowering the teams, it tied their hands. Instead of strengthening the commissioner's credibility, it exposed her detachment from the sports culture. And while Engelbert touted the deal as proof of her visionary leadership, the timing couldn't have been worse. Players were fighting for better travel accommodations, fair pay, and basic safety protocols. Yet the commissioner was bragging about investor confidence. It sent a chilling message: profits over players. The optics were disastrous. Fans accused her of caring more about PowerPoint slides than the women actually playing the game. Even more damaging was how Engelbert used the investment to justify her decisions. When players questioned her about their limited salaries, she reportedly responded, "You should be on your knees thanking your lucky stars for the media rights deal I got you." That tone, smug, corporate, and condescending, only deepened the divide. Now, that $75 million victory is seen by many inside the league as a symbol of everything wrong with her leadership. The WNBA isn't growing because of that deal. It's growing in spite of it, thanks to stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese who have brought attention no investor could buy. Engelbert's business-first mindset might look good in a boardroom, but on the court, where respect, trust, and connection matter most, it's become poison. The irony? Engelbert wanted to make the league financially stronger. Instead, she made it emotionally weaker, and that's a kind of bankruptcy no investor can fix. If you ask any WNBA fan what's killing their love for the game right now, the answer isn't complicated. It's the officiating. Bad calls, missed fouls, blatant bias. Every week, it seems like there's another viral clip showing inconsistency, confusion, or pure chaos from the refs. And where's Cathy Engelbert in all this? Silent, or worse, defensive. The commissioner's refusal to take accountability for the league's officiating crisis has created one of the most toxic rifts in WNBA history, pitting players, fans, and even teams against the very system meant to protect them. Let's start with what players are actually saying. Angel Reese, Aya Wilson, and even veterans like Breanna Stewart have all voiced frustration. But instead of transparency, they're met with fines. The league is silencing the very athletes it should be listening to. One player anonymously told The Athletic, "We can't even breathe wrong without getting fined, but refs can decide entire games and face zero consequences. That's not just unfair, that's systemic rot, and it's happening under Engelbert's watch." And this isn't just about bad whistles. It's about player safety and the commissioner's failure to prioritize it. From repeated non-calls on hard fouls to inconsistent enforcement of flagrant rules, players have been left exposed to unnecessary risk. The infamous Caitlin Clark hit, where she was shoved to the floor with no call, became a flashpoint. Fans erupted, calling it the moment the WNBA lost credibility. But Engelbert's response? A canned statement about trusting the officiating process. No epalegi, no accountability. The problem goes deeper than perception. Multiple insiders claim Engelbert has refused to fund better officiating development programs, prioritizing marketing budgets instead. That means the league's referees are often undertrained, underpaid, and overworked, a recipe for chaos. Former refs have come forward saying the league ignores internal reports about bias and mistakes because public perception matters more than internal reform. It's a shocking admission, one that paints Engelbert as someone more interested in saving face than fixing the problem. But the damage is already done. Fans now joke about WNBA scriptwriters, claiming games are rigged. Some even compare the league's officiating scandal to the NBA's infamous Tim Donaghy betting era. Whether or not that's true, the mere fact fans believe it shows how deep the trust collapse goes. Engelbert's defenders say she's working on it. But that phrase has become meaningless. Because when your athletes are getting injured, your refs are inconsistent, and your fans are tuning out, you're not managing a league, you're managing a disaster. And right now, the disaster has Cathy Engelbert's name written all over it. Started as a rivalry. It's now a civil war, not just between players, but between the fans, the media, and the very identity of the WNBA itself. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese should have been the league's dream storyline. Two generational stars elevating women's basketball to new heights. Instead, under Cathy Engelbert's leadership, they've become symbols of favoritism, bias, and hypocrisy. From day one, the league has handled these two very differently. When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, Engelbert called her a transformative figure, appearing at her first game, promoting her jersey sales, and making her the face of every major marketing campaign. And make no mistake, Clark earned that attention. Her shooting range, confidence, and record-breaking college career drew millions of new fans to the sport. But the issue isn't Caitlin's success. The issue is how Engelbert treated everyone else in the process. Angel Reese, for instance, the unapologetic, gritty forward who helped LSU dominate college basketball and then brought that same fire to the pros, was quickly painted as the villain. Instead of celebrating her charisma and competitive edge, Engelbert's media machine seemed to sideline her. When Reese got fouled hard or clashed with refs, the league barely said a word. But when Clark got bumped, it became a national incident. The double standard was glaring, and fans noticed. One viral tweet summed it up. When Angel shows emotion, she's a problem. When Caitlin does it, She's passionate. Players started whispering about the Caitlin Clark protection plan, a tongue-in-cheek phrase that hides a very real frustration. Behind closed doors, stars like Aya Wilson and Eric Ogunbowale have questioned why the league bends over backward for one rookie while others fight tooth and nail for recognition. Engelbert's approach has created resentment, not just because of who she promotes, but how transparently she plays favorites. The tension exploded when hard fouls on Clark became viral flashpoints. Instead of using the moment to unite fans and push for fair play, Engelbert let it spiral into chaos. She stayed silent while the media pitted women against each other. She allowed narratives of race, privilege, and favoritism to fester unchecked, and that silence spoke volumes. What could have been a golden era for women's basketball turned into a storm of division, fueled by Engelbert's PR missteps. By spotlighting one player while letting others fade into the background, she fractured the unity she was supposed to build. Instead of celebrating individuality, she commercialized it. Instead of building equality, she built resentment. And now, fans are split. Some defend Clark, others defend Reese. But almost everyone agrees on one thing: Cathy Engelbert mishandled it. Her selective spotlighting of stars created a two-tier system, one where popularity determines protection and marketability dictates respect. This isn't about Clark or Reese anymore. It's about trust. And once a league loses that, when fans and players start believing the system is rigged toward image over integrity, it's nearly impossible to get it back. In today's WNBA, controversy doesn't just happen, it's managed. And nobody has managed it more aggressively or more disastrously than Cathy Engelbert. Once praised for her calm corporate polish, Engelbert has turned the league's media relations into a machine of deflection and narrative control, one that's now crumbling under the weight of its own lies. What was meant to protect the WNBA's image has instead become the single biggest threat to its credibility. Behind the curtain, multiple league insiders describe a chokehold on messaging. Journalists have quietly complained about being pressured not to criticize officiating, Engelbert's leadership, or internal conflicts. Some say their access was threatened when they published pieces that didn't align with the league's talking points. Others have revealed that Engelbert's PR team routinely sends clarification memos to major outlets, subtle rewordings meant to soften or redirect stories before they go public. It's not media management, it's media manipulation. And yet, the public still sees Engelbert as composed, polished, and in control until the cracks started showing. One of the biggest examples came during the travel controversy earlier this season, when players called out the league for forcing them onto commercial flights while NBA teams flew charter. Engelbert's team rushed to push a narrative that change was coming. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. When reporters pressed her, she dodged, pivoted, and then blamed logistical challenges. It was spin, not substance, and players like Chelsea Gray and Nafisa Collier saw right through it. But the PR manipulation didn't stop there. During the officiating scandals, Engelbert's team flooded social media with soft-focus highlight videos and empowerment clips, hoping to drown out fan outrage. It didn't work. The public wanted accountability, not marketing. When fans noticed the league deleting negative comments on official posts, it only confirmed their suspicion. The WNBA wasn't just mishandling crises, it was trying to erase them. The moment everything truly unraveled was after the viral Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese tension exploded. Instead of calming the storm, Engelbert's PR team fueled it with tone-deaf press statements and selective interviews that clearly favored one side. What followed was a tidal wave of online division. The very strategy designed to protect the brand ended up fracturing it completely. Even within the WNBA, PR staffers have grown uneasy. One former employee said, "We spend more time cleaning up narratives than fixing the actual problems." Another added, "Engelbert doesn't want transparency. She wants control." And that's the irony. Engelbert's obsession with controlling the story has destroyed her ability to tell one that anyone believes. The more she spins, the less people trust her. The more she hides, the more fans dig. The result? A commissioner surrounded by fog, but exposed in plain sight. Public confidence in the WNBA's leadership is at an all-time low. Every press conference feels like a performance. Every quote sounds rehearsed. The truth has become Engelbert's most dangerous opponent, and no amount of PR spin can rewrite that script. For months, rumors swirled quietly in league circles. Whispers of discontent, closed-door meetings, and tense phone calls between WNBA franchise owners. But now, those whispers have become something impossible to ignore. Multiple ownership groups are reportedly pushing back against Cathy Engelbert, and some have even begun discussing what insiders are calling the contingency plan, a behind-the-scenes movement to replace her as commissioner before the 2026 season. It's a rebellion that's been brewing for over a year. The cracks first appeared after Engelbert's controversial $75 million investor deal, which gave private firms unprecedented influence over league direction. At the time, many owners went along quietly, trusting her financial expertise. But as the months passed, their patience wore thin. The promised returns didn't materialize. Team budgets were still tight. Player travel conditions barely improved. Meanwhile, Engelbert continued giving glowing interviews about historic growth, while owners stared at balance sheets that told a very different story. According to one high-ranking executive, she sold us on a vision. What we got was a PR campaign. The breaking point came this season when Engelbert allegedly dismissed owners' concerns about officiating and player safety, the very issues driving public outrage. In one heated meeting, two team governors reportedly challenged her leadership directly, accusing her of running the league like a brand, not a sport. Witnesses say the tension was palpable, with Engelbert responding coolly that emotional reactions don't drive business. That remark, dismissive and corporate, sealed her fate with several team leaders. Privately, at least 4 franchises have expressed interest in exploring leadership alternatives. According to multiple sources close to the league, they've begun quietly contacting sports law firms and consulting agencies to assess how a commissioner replacement process might unfold. The phrase mutual parting of ways has been floated, corporate language that usually signals the beginning of the end. And this revolt isn't just about personal frustration. It's about survival. Owners feel Engelbert's leadership is alienating fans, damaging relationships with players, and suffocating creativity at the team level. Some say the league's top-down structure under Engelbert has become dictatorial, with every decision requiring her approval. That micromanagement has left owners feeling powerless and disengaged, the opposite of the dynamic collaboration that built the WNBA in the first place. But perhaps the biggest factor driving the rebellion is optics. While Engelbert insists the league is thriving, attendance numbers, sponsorship renewals, and viewership growth have been inconsistent. Teams like the Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky, boosted by rookie superstars, are thriving independently, not because of Engelbert's office. Owners see that contrast clearly. The league's success is being driven by players, not by her management. The irony? Engelbert was hired to bring stability. Instead, she's become the epicenter of chaos, as one owner bluntly put it. Cathy thinks she built this league, but the truth is, the league is surviving in spite of her. And when your own boardroom starts echoing that sentiment, the countdown clock to your exit has already begun ticking. If there's one thing you never want to lose as a commissioner, it's your players, the heartbeat of the league, the voices that fill arenas, move merchandise, and embody the entire mission of women's sports empowerment. But Cathy Engelbert, once praised for her calm and calculated approach, has done the unthinkable. She's lost the locker rooms. And this time, it's not just a few frustrated players venting online. It's an organized, simmering revolt across the WNBA's core stars. The signs started subtly: cryptic tweets, passive-aggressive post-game comments, awkward body language in pressers. But over time, the pattern became unmistakable. Player after player began calling out the league for its hypocrisy, its favoritism, its silence. Aya Wilson's interviews dripped with restrained anger. Angel Reese's posts hinted at double standards. Even veterans like Diana Taurasi, usually diplomatic, began questioning where leadership really is. And at the center of all that frustration, Cathy Engelbert's face, smiling from press conferences as if everything were fine. It's not fine. Behind the scenes, players have reportedly begun discussing forming a new independent player committee, separate from the official players' union, to hold the commissioner directly accountable. Some stars have even floated the idea of boycotts if league transparency doesn't improve. That might sound extreme, but to many athletes, it's become a necessary form of survival. As one player told ESPN anonymously, "You can't talk about empowerment when you silence our voices every time we criticize the system." That line cuts deep because it exposes Engelbert's fatal contradiction. She constantly markets the WNBA as a league of empowerment, leadership, and social justice, yet punishes the very players who embody that spirit when they speak up. It's corporate feminism at its worst, empowering in branding, oppressive in practice. Take the Caitlin Clark-Angel Reese situation as an example. Engelbert's silence as players tore each other apart online didn't just divide the fan base. It fractured the players' trust in her completely. Instead of using her platform to mediate, to educate, to unite, she let chaos reign. Players were left to fend for themselves while the league quietly pushed whatever narrative sold the most jerseys that week. The frustration also extends to off-court issues, from inadequate travel standards to ignored requests for better health care and maternity policies. Even the basic day-to-day respect between players and the league office has eroded. One veteran summed it up: "We don't feel like partners, we feel like employees." That's the breaking point, because for years, the WNBA's identity wasn't built on hierarchy, it was built on solidarity. Players and leadership moved as one. But under Engelbert, that unity has cracked into factions. Management versus athletes, profit versus people, image versus integrity. And if Engelbert doesn't realize how serious this has become, she's in for a rude awakening. Because this isn't just frustration anymore, it's rebellion. The league's biggest stars are fed up with being treated like branding tools instead of human beings. They've reached the point where business decisions are no longer enough to silence them. The question now isn't if players will stand up, it's what happens when they do. Because in a league built by women fighting for equality, a commissioner who can't listen is a commissioner who won't last. This isn't just another league controversy anymore. This is the reckoning, the kind that only happens once in a generation. The WNBA isn't just facing a leadership crisis. It's standing on the edge of transformation. And at the heart of this seismic moment sits Cathy Engelbert, the commissioner who promised evolution, but instead delivered alienation. Let's be brutally honest. The WNBA under Engelbert's rule has been a paradox. On paper, she's led during a boom period, record viewership, sold-out arenas, global headlines. But behind those impressive numbers lies a rot that's impossible to ignore. Mistrust, division, and a league desperately running from its own reflection. Because the truth is, those victories weren't hers. They belong to Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Aya Wilson, and an entire generation of young stars who reignited the sport with charisma, authenticity, and fire. Engelbert simply stood nearby, taking credit while the foundation beneath her cracked apart. Now that foundation is collapsing, multiple insiders confirm that league owners have already begun informal discussions about potential successors. Former players turned executives, high-profile marketing minds, and even names from outside sports have reportedly been floated. The message is clear. A new era is coming, and it will be defined by leaders who actually understand the cultural pulse driving the WNBA's resurgence. If Engelbert does get fired, and at this point it's looking inevitable, it could open the door for a complete structural overhaul. Insiders suggest the owners are considering shifting power from the commissioner's office toward a shared governance model, where players, owners, and sponsors each have direct influence over major decisions. It's radical, yes, but so was the idea of a women's professional basketball league 30 years ago. And revolutions often come from chaos. Still, the path forward won't be easy. The CBA negotiations, already hanging by a thread, will determine not just salaries or flight upgrades, but the entire philosophy of the WNBA. Will it remain a top-down corporate entity obsessed with optics? Or will it evolve into a truly player-first league that matches the values it preaches? The answer will shape the future of women's sports globally. Because make no mistake, the WNBA is more than a league right now. It's a mirror. It reflects the growing pains of a new generation of women refusing to be sidelined, silenced, or managed by outdated systems. And Cathy Engelbert, for all her corporate pedigree, represents that old guard, the one that treats progress like a press release instead of a purpose. The irony? She might still go down in history as the commissioner who made the WNBA stronger, not because of her leadership, but because of her failure. Her collapse has forced uncomfortable conversations into the open about how women's leagues are run, who gets to profit, who gets to speak, and who gets to lead. If Engelbert's exit sparks reform, if it inspires a new generation of leaders who listen, who build collaboratively, who see the WNBA as a living movement rather than a marketing project, then maybe this entire implosion won't have been for nothing. But until then, the league remains in limbo, trapped between its explosive growth and its fragile soul. Cathy Engelbert once said, "I've never been a quitter, but sometimes leadership isn't about refusing to quit. Sometimes it's about knowing when to step aside before the legacy you built burns down with you." And right now, as boos echo in arenas and owners whisper behind closed doors, that moment seems closer than ever. The WNBA stands at a crossroads. One path leads to rebirth, the other to ruin. And the woman holding the final decision is the same one everyone's begging to let go.